This is the tale of Allerleirauh, or Many Furs. There once was a king whose wife had golden hair, and was altogether so beautiful that her equal was not to be found in the world. It happened that she fell ill, and when she felt she must soon die, she called the king and said, "If you marry again after my death, take no one who is not as beautiful as I have been, nor who has not golden hair like mine, and this you must promise me." After the king had promised, she closed her eyes and soon died. For a long time the king would not be comforted, and thought not of taking a second wife, but his counselors said at last that he must marry again. Then messengers were sent far and wide to seek such a bride as should be as beautiful as the late queen, but there was no one to be found in the whole world so beautiful and with such golden hair. So the messengers returned home without accomplishing anything. Now the king had a daughter who was just as beautiful as her dead mother, and had also the same golden hair, and as she grew up the king saw how like she was to his lost wife. He fell passionately in love with her, and told his counselors, "I am going to marry my daughter, for she is a living image of my dead wife, and I'll never find another like her." The counselors were horrified. "A father cannot marry his daughter," they said. "It is forbidden by God. No good can come of such a sin, and the whole kingdom will be dragged down to ruin with you." The daughter was even more terrified when she heard of her father's decision, but hoped yet to turn him from his intention. So she said to him, "Before I fulfill your wish, I must first have 3 dresses. One as golden as the sun, another as silver as the moon, and a third as shining as the stars. Further, I desire a cloak composed of thousands of skins and hides, and to which every beast in your kingdom must contribute a portion of his skin." The princess thought this would be impossible to do, and so she should reclaim her father from his intention. But the king would not give it up, and the cleverest maidens in the kingdom had to weave the 3 dresses, one as golden as the sun, a second as silver as the moon, and a third as shining as the stars. While his huntsmen had to catch all the beasts in the whole kingdom, and from each take a piece of his skin, wherewith a mantle of 1,000 pieces was made. At length, when all was ready, the king let the mantle be fetched, and spreading it before him said, "Tomorrow shall the wedding be." When the king's daughter now saw that there was no hope left of turning her father from his resolve, she determined to flee away. In the night, while all slept, she got up and took 3 of her treasures: a golden ring, a gold spinning wheel, and a gold reel. She put also in a nutshell the 3 dresses of the sun, moon, and stars, and putting on the mantle of all skins, she dyed her hands and face black with soot. Then, commending herself to God, she set off and traveled the whole night till she came to a large wood, where, feeling very tired, she took refuge in a hollow tree, and went to sleep. The sun arose, and she still slept and slept on, till it was again far into the morning. Then it happened that the king who owned this forest came to hunt in it. As soon as his dogs ran to the tree, they snapped about it, barked and growled, so that the king said to his huntsman, "See what wild animal it is that is concealed there." The hunters obeyed his orders, and, when they returned, they said, "In that hollow lies a wonderful creature, whose like we have never before seen. Its skin is composed of 1,000 different colors, but it lies quite quiet and asleep." The king said, "Try if you can catch it alive, and then bind it to the carriage, and we will take it with us." As soon as the hunters caught hold of the maiden, she awoke full of terror, and called out to them, "I am a poor child, forsaken by both father and mother. Pray pity me, and take me with you." They named her Allerleirauh, because of her mantle, and took her home with them to serve in the kitchen and rake out the ashes. They went to the royal palace, and there they showed her a little stable under the step where no daylight could enter, and told her she could live and sleep there. Afterwards she went into the kitchen, and there she had to carry water and wood to make the fire, to pluck the fowls, to peel the vegetables, to rake out the ashes, and to do all manner of dirty work. Here for a length of time Allerleirauh lived wretchedly, but it happened once that a feast was held in the palace, and she asked the cook, "May I go and look on for a little while? I will place myself just outside the door." The cook said yes, but in half an hour's time you must return and rake out the ashes. Allerleirauh took an oil lamp, and going to her stable, put off the gown of skins, and washed the soot from her face and hands, so that her real beauty was displayed. Then she opened her nut, and took out the dress which shone as the sun, and as soon as she was ready, she went up to the ballroom, where everyone made way for her, supposing that she was certainly some princess. The king himself soon came up to her, and taking her hand danced with her, thinking the while in his heart that he had never seen anyone like her. As soon as the dance was finished, she curtsied, and before the king could look round she had disappeared, and nobody knew whither. The watchmen also at the gates were called and questioned, but they had not seen her. She had run back to her stable, and having quickly taken off her dress and again blackened her face and hands, and put on the dress of all skins, and became Allerleirauh once more. As soon as she went into the kitchen to do her work and sweeping up the ashes, the cook said, "Let that be for once till the morning, and cook the king's supper for me instead, while I go upstairs to have a peep. But mind, you do not let one of your hairs fall in, or you will get nothing to eat for the future." So saying, he went away, and Allerleirauh cooked the king's supper, making some soup as good as she possibly could. And when it was ready, she went into the stable and fetched her gold ring and laid it in the dish. When the dance was at an end, the king ordered his supper to be brought, which, when he had tasted, he thought he had never eaten anything so nice before. Just as he nearly finished it, he saw a gold ring at the bottom, and not being able to imagine how it came there, he commanded the cook to be brought before him. The cook was terrified when he heard this order, and said to Allerleirauh, "Are you certain you did not let a hair fall into the soup? For it is so. If it is so, you will catch a beating." And then he came before the king, who asked who had cooked the supper, and he answered, "I did." But the king said, "That is not true, for it is of a much better kind and much better cooked than usual." Then the cook said, "I must confess that not I, but Allerleirauh cooked it." So the king commanded that she should be brought up. When Allerleirauh came, the king asked, "Who are you?" "I am a poor child without father or mother," replied she. "Why did you come to my palace?" then inquired the king. "I am good for nothing else but to have the boots thrown at my head," said she. The king asked again, "Where did you get this ring?" then which was in the soup. Allerleirauh said, "I know nothing of it." And as she would say no more, she was at last sent away. After a time there was another ball, and Allerleirauh asked the cook's permission to go again and look on, and he consented, and told her, "Return here in half an hour to cook the king again the same soup which he liked so much before." Allerleirauh ran into the stable, and washing herself quickly, took out of the shell the dress which was silver as the moon, and put it on. Then she went up to the ballroom and appeared like a princess, and the king, stepping up to her, was very glad to see her again, and as the dancing was just begun, they joined it. But as soon as it was over, his partner disappeared so quickly that the king did not notice where she went. She ran to her stable and changed her garments again, and then went into the kitchen to make the soup. When the cook was upstairs, she fetched the golden spinning wheel and put it in the tureens, so that the soup was served up with it. Afterwards it was brought before the king, who ate it and found it taste as good as the former. And the cook was called, who was obliged to confess again that Allerleirauh had made it. Allerleirauh was accordingly taken before the king, but she repeated what she had before said, that she was of no use but to have boots thrown at her, and that she knew nothing of the gold spinning wheel. Not long afterwards, a third fete was given by the king, at which everything went as before. The cook said to Allerleirauh, when she asked leave to go, "You are certainly a witch, and always put something in the soup which makes it taste better than mine. Still, since you beg so hard, you shall go at the usual time." This time she put on the dress shining as the stars, and stepped with it into the ballroom. The king danced again with her, and thought he had never seen any maiden so beautiful, and while the dance went on he slipped the gold ring onto her finger without her perceiving it, and told the musicians to prolong the time. When at last it ended, he would have kept fast hold of her hand, but she tore herself away and sprang so quickly in among the people that she disappeared from his sight. Allerleirauh ran as well as she could back to her stable, but she had stayed over and above the half hour, and she had not time to pull off her beautiful dress, but was obliged to throw over it her cloak of skins. She did not either quite finish the blacking of her skin, but left one finger white. Then she ran into the kitchen, cooked the soup for the king, and put in it the reel, while the cook stayed upstairs. Afterwards, when the king found the reel at the bottom of his soup, he summoned Allerleirauh, and perceived at once her white finger, and the ring which he had put on it during the dance. He took her by the hand and held her fast, and when she tried to force herself from him and run away, her cloak of skins fell partly off, and the starry dress was displayed to view. The king then pulled the cloak wholly off, and down came her golden hair, and there she stood in all her beauty, and could no longer conceal herself. As soon then as the soot and ashes were washed off her face, she stood up and appeared more beautiful than anyone could conceive possible on earth. But the king said to her, "You are my dear bride, and we will never separate from each other." Thereupon was the wedding celebrated, and they lived happily to the end of their lives. Thank you for listening today to that Grimm fairy tale. Please make sure that you share, like, subscribe, all of the above to this channel, and make sure that you come back for more Grimm fairy tales. Thanks for watching, and bye.